So, right before this class from 4 to 5, I was telling the people that we ran a little bit late today, and some people came in and I saw them taking notes. So I thought I'd tell you guys, like from 4 to 5, I am doing like going over that hand-done math in this course. And I actually post them on here. It says the Math 321. What we did last Thursday, we were looking at, let's let it load. Really?
It's been a good life. Sorry.
Right? Fuck, get it together already, Jesus. All right, so like here we were multiplying fractions and simplifying, which is stuff you'll do in chapter 5 quite a bit. We did talking about dividing fractions. If some of that math doesn't look familiar to you, or you're going through like the homework and you're like, I don't remember how to do this shit, come over to the Math 321 stuff and just skim it. Just take a look at it, and I like give titles of what we're doing. So we did fractions of prime numbers. We were adding fractions together, fractions, decimals, and rounding. Today we did more decimals, rounding. We did percents. We did comparisons, like how do you compare two decimals to see which one's larger or smaller. The paper clip shows the scan lecture I did. The chain link is a link to YouTube. So I recorded it and I'm going to go post it to YouTube so you can watch the lecture. Or if you're free from 4 to 5, I know some people aren't, they just raced over here for work. You're free from 4 to 5, you're always welcome to sit in on the class before. Like after we pass the midterm, most of that support math is done. So I'm going to be doing more problems in StatCrunch to get them comfortable using StatCrunch. I'm going to show you StatCrunch today as part of the lecture. Because part of it's in it. But you can always check out, refresh your memory on some of the math stuff in that Math 321 stuff in the Canvas. Or if you're free, you're always welcome to come. It's the same old Jefe up here just talking away. So, chapter 2. Chapter 2 is on. Oh, wait, before I go into that, this is Math 21. And what is this, day 3 of lecture? Is it our 3rd lecture? Feels like it. So chapter 2 is on organizing data. Two point 1, we're going to do tables. And then 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 has graphing in it. I think the very end of 2.1 has bar plots and like pie charts, and I'm going to show them today real quickly, but I'm going to do bar plots a lot with histograms on Thursday, so I'm just going to introduce it and save that for the graphing day. So today we're doing 2.1. 2.1 is on frequency and relative frequency. Something in my fucking teeth, it's driving me nuts. Just make a paper toothpick real quick. Got it. There's nothing more annoying than how much shit you can get out of your teeth. Well, there is, stubbing your toes. That's up there. Stubbing your toe is one of those My wife's cussing for no reason. I have no idea what's going on in the bedroom. She probably stubbed her toe. All right, so this is what happened. I'm gonna give you a scenario. This is a true scenario. In spring of 2020, right before the pandemic. Well, this was a couple weeks before the pandemic really hit here. Beginning of class, I asked my stats students the following question. And this is 3 classes worth of answers. I had 3 stats courses in spring of 2020. I will tell you, that's rough, teaching the same thing 3 times in a row. And I'm like, I don't know which class, in this class am I doing it? Did I do this already yet? You know, like keeping track of what I gotta do, that was a bitch. That's not easy. 2 stats classes. This semester I have 2, but they're on the same day. So whatever I do in the morning, I just do in the evening. When there's 3, they were not all on the same day. Some were Monday, Wednesday, and like holidays, just sometimes the Monday, Wednesday was ahead, and sometimes Tuesday, Thursday was ahead. It was just fucking with my head. It was terrible. So this was the question. What time of day do you do your best work? This was not a open question. This was a closed question. They had 5 choices they could choose. They could say Monday, not Monday, mornings, fucking Monday, mornings, noon, afternoon, evening, or late night. And these were the results. I had 25 people choose mornings. 30 people chose noon. Afternoon was 20. Evening was 17, and late night was 9. So, this is like, there were 25 individual responses that chose morning. That's what the 25 means. 25 people said morning. I didn't define to them what the hours were. I let them decide what was considered morning, what was considered noon time, what was considered afternoon. So some people had like 3 to 5 for afternoon. Some people had 1 to 5 for afternoon. Some, you know, they didn't actually list it. But when I asked them later on, I'm like, what made you choose afternoon? I heard a wide range of answers. Morning was always before noon, obviously. But some people ended morning at 10 a.m. Some people ended morning at 11. Like anything after that was in like the noonish bracket. So I had total, there was 101 responses. If we add all these up, there was 101 responses. These are called the frequencies. Not too bad so far, right? We haven't done, only math I've done is added those up, and I did that for you. So these are called frequencies, but frequencies aren't always that helpful. Yeah,
What's frequency? The number of students or the number of options? provided?
the number of, okay, so. Let's put it in words. That's a great question. Like, what the hell do you mean here? So by frequency. Frequency is the number of responses. For a specific category. Okay, so. What if I just told you 25 people said they preferred morning? And you weren't able to see the rest of the table? I didn't tell you there was 100 people. I just said 25 people chose morning. That doesn't really tell you a lot. If there's 25 people in the class. Everybody said morning. If I had 500 students, 25 people isn't very much, right? So like, the 25 isn't really give me like the big picture. So when we choose something else, we choose relative frequency is the ideal one. And we do that, we calculate relative frequency. That's one abbreviation. Usually when I'm writing it, sometimes I'll put RF. But RF makes me laugh because in my head, RF is rat fuck. Like that, like someone's pissing me off, you're a rat fuck. I don't know why. I don't know where I got it from. It's just there. And so RF makes me giggle, but relative frequency, how do we calculate it? Well, find a pen that's not bleeding yet. Relative frequency for a category is X divided by N. X is the frequency for that category. N is the total number of participants. That's not, I need to write it bigger so you can read it. N is also called the sample size. We will use lowercase n for sample size. And that's all it means. Every single time, it's the total number of participants, whether it's people that we're counting or we're tracking cars in the parking lot. I don't know how a car participates, so maybe participate isn't a good word for it. But total number of entries, that's another way of saying it. Total number of entries. So what does that look like here? I'll make sure everyone's got a chance to write this down. I think I'm gonna use a blank page for the next part. Anyone need this longer? All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rewrite my table. Mornings, noon, afternoon, evenings, and late night. That was a fun breakdown to find out what people just thought the evening and late night where the drawing line was. A lot of people followed like primetime TV. When primetime TV ended, that's when it ended. I think that's 9 p.m. After that, shit starts going off.
I would want to,
What?
like, it's after we eat dessert.
Right? I like that definition. Let's focus. That's how it is for a lot of people. Time focuses around meals. That's how you define your time. The only thing that for the like that category for those people that like wake up afternoon, they didn't describe morning as like 12 to 2. They knew that they weren't waking up in the morning. So what we're gonna have, we had 25 in this category. I had 30 in this category. I had 20 here. I had 17 here, and I had 9 here. We had 101 people. That was my N. So for each of these, I am going to divide them by that 101. Is already over here doing it. She's like, I am waiting for you to write that shit down. I wonder how many decimal places Melinda's going to choose to write. It doesn't matter. These are lecture notes. These are your notes, however you want to do it. No, go ahead, keep going. 3 is fine. I did 4, but you could do 3. So this was 0.2475. This was 0.2970. This was 0.1980. 0.1683. 0.0891. Now, those of you that remember how to do it or were present in the class I just taught, we talked about how to convert these to percentages. You move the decimal to the right twice. To write this as a percentage, I'm going to move it to the right twice, and I will get 24.75% for that one, 29.70% here, 19.80% here, 16.83% here, and only 8.91% there. Now, 25 people was not as meaningful, but 24.75%, that's roughly a fourth of them. Yeah, everyone has a general feel for what 25% is. For some reason, we're all okay with percentages, for the most part. Noon looks like it's the biggest one, clearly, because it's got the highest percentage. And these all look relatively close to the numbers on top because the denominator is 101. In fact, if it had been 100 on the bottom, they would be the exact same numbers as decimals. So, one thing to note about relative frequencies, if we add up this column, or this one, or bucket, let's even do that one. This is worth showing, doing all three. For the blue one, when you add fractions with the same denominator, you add the tops. This is going to add up to 101 over 101. This one has rounding errors in it. So this one is actually getting to 0.9999. So it's so the 101 over 101 is approximately 0.9999. There are rounding errors here. That's why it's not exactly 1. And these are going to add up to 99.9%, 99%. If it was exact, that would be a 1, and that would be 100%. Because 100% makes sense. If I add up all the entries, I should have 100% of the entries, right? Just reasoning it out. You should have 100% of the entries. These are more meaningful. I think percentages help more. The decimal, not so much, but I can do the decimal to percent in my head. But a lot of people, when they look at the decimal, if they don't realize it's representing a proportion, because that's what the numbers in the left are called here. These are called proportions. So this column right here is our relative frequencies. That's the way we're going to see most stuff as decimals. The fraction is also a relative frequency, but most of the time the homework is not going to have you enter a fraction. They're going to want a decimal answer. And I gotta tell you, they're gonna fuck with you so many times with the rounding that you're gonna think you don't know what the hell you're doing. Because you're gonna make, even no matter how good you are at rounding and comparing shit and stuff like that, you're gonna make mistakes and it's gonna tell you you're wrong, but it's not gonna tell you how you're wrong. So like if you typed in 0.9998 rather than 0.9999, it's going to tell you you're wrong. And you probably just made an addition mistake up here where you did everything correctly and you just had a like typo, calculator error. It won't tell you what's wrong. So if you get something, you're like, I thought I knew what I was doing. Don't immediately tell yourself, nope, I don't know what I'm doing. Instead, do all the calculator work again. Make sure you read that you're doing the right number of decimal places. All that good jazz. Check that you're doing what it's asking and recheck your math, because chances are you knew what you were doing and you fucked up some calculator work. Right? So how are we going to do this in StatCrunch? This can get tedious. I will show you. But before I show you, oh, people are still writing. Dang, is anyone still writing this? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. Before I do it on the computer and show you how it works, I'm gonna write out some shit by hand. So like, because me saying it out loud is the same thing as saying it by hand. So let's see. When we're doing StatCrunch, I do this a lot. For me, when I put an arrow, that means click this. That's my notation for doing it. Because there's like drop-down menus and shit and stuff like that. You'll see. So for frequencies and relative frequencies, we're going to follow the same path. We're going to click on stats. I think it just says stat. Then we're going to click on tables. And then we're going to click on frequency. Okay. I'm going to give you some advice on how to navigate some of these things. And I'm just going to put a list of entries here. There's two ways to go through this. If you want to selecting multiple entries, this information is under the category selecting multiple entries. So let's say they are all in a row for the ones you want. Click the top one with your mouse or your trackpad or whatever you're doing. Click the top one, then hold down Shift key. This should be the same on Mac. And click the bottom one. Let's say I wanted B, C, and D. I would click on this one and I would shift click D. If I do that, all of these are going to be highlighted as such. Yeah, I'm going to show you it all live in just a second. Every time I've tried to verbally explain this, no matter how attentive they looked like they were in class, they didn't follow what I was saying. But if I put it down in words, it might make more sense. Like I'm actually just drawing a picture of what we're doing here. I'll do it live on StatCrunch. I'm going to walk through. We're going to do it. Don't you worry. Now, if they're not all in a row, let's say I want A, C, and E. They both start with click the top one. So that's always the first step. Next one is hold down control. The CTRL key. I don't know if Mac has a control key. It might be the Apple key or whatever the fuck it's called on a Mac. I don't use a Mac. Hold down the control key and click the rest.
One at a time.
Yeah, one at a time. And this is pretty important. So I'm gonna make sure I could use a different color here. If you have to scroll down to get to more. More options. Let go of the control key first. I will show you what happens in a second if you don't. This might be something that's universal in Excel and all, like, I'm not sure, but I don't know that I've ever done it in like Excel.
I think it does about almost everything.
Yeah.
So a couple of people know better than I. This seems to be the only one I do it in. I don't know why.
So you could fix it if you.
You just go the other way.
Yeah, but you also hold down control and hit plus or minus, so it's in.
Yeah. This causes Zoom issues. It's Zoom issues. Zoom in and out, I should say. I'm actually teaching on it, like there's might be someone on Zoom. And I'm not talking about like the video service. So if I did that here, what I would do is I would click on the A. And it would highlight that. And then I would control click the C. And I would control click the E. And it would not highlight the B and the D. It would only give me the ones I want. If you've got this written down, when you're first using StatCrunch with the big data table, give this a try. Just try it out. Okay, you'll see what I'm talking about. If you want a big database to check out, I'm going to show you how to get there, but one of the database I'm going to use in a second. If you look for CSI Stats Project on StatCrunch, you will find a data like a database that I've used in the past. I'm about to use it for my presentation here, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. I don't want to click over until I make sure everyone's ready, so I'm going to pause for a little bit. All right, are you guys ready? Does anyone need this up longer? Wait, nope, Jackie's pin's moving.
Oh, no, I'm ready to.
She's doodling. I don't see any hands going up, so. What am I doing? I don't need to fucking do anything with that. I'm just gonna go over to. Pearson. Look at all the classes I got on my list. Look at all that shit. It's madness. Madness, I tell you. Okay, so if you just want to open up StatCrunch, you're not doing like a homework assignment and you're going to open it within the assignment. You can click on StatCrunch on the left. View this data sets is a little confusing. It's going from problems in the old textbook, which you don't see the textbook here. They don't have it uploaded. So like, you gotta guess what the data sets are about. But if you visit the StatCrunch website, We have a couple options here. Data sets is usually a good way to go. Or if you collected your own data, like when you're working on a project and you've saved it. In here, you can go to your own data this way. If you've done surveys, you can actually, if you want to do a survey. Like your survey stuff with. When you're doing your project and you want to like just poll people online. You can actually use this as your survey thing. And people's responses will go directly into StatCrunch for you, which makes it handy because you don't have to key anything in. We'll cover that when we get to the projects later. I'm going to look at data sets. You have a wide variety of ones you can look at, like a lot. Oh, I might have to check this one out later. Professor salaries. I'm going to use CSI Stats Project. And it'll say David Gao at cos.edu. If you do that, you found the right one. That's me. This anonymous survey is for a statistics project designed to illustrate how forensic science uses mathematics and statistics to assist in crime solving. When we were doing online stats classes, it was a little harder to do project groups. Like during the pandemic, no one's going out and like surveying people. So I came up with my own project. You can just type in CSI Stats Project and look at the same thing if you want to play around with it. The premise of this project was answer a bunch of questions. You were at a scene of a crime. There is a suspect. There's a description of a suspect. And they had a bunch of categories like hair color, eye color, body size, skin tone, height, age, shit like that, of what they thought the suspect was. And it was kind of like, this thing was like, do I match up with the suspect a lot? Or did I not? And we could do like a mathematics statistics approach to see if they would pull you aside for questioning. Now in StatCrunch, it's kind of like Excel. What is going on here? I need to play with this some more. Oh, there we go. I can see better. Each row is an individual person. So like the first person, all of their stuff is in row one. There were 213 responses. We're going to take a look at age. I'm going to look at the age category. We're going to go stats, tables, frequency. Just like the little drop-down menu I was telling you. I guess I didn't need to click anything past the first one, but just keep moving your mouse over to select it. And this is where I was talking about the control click or the shift click. If I wanted age through shoe, I could click age, I could hold down the control or the shift key, and I could click shoe and it would highlight all of them. Let's say I didn't know. Let's say I just wanted age and I wanted shoe. So I hold down the control click shoe. Now, if there's another one on the list and it's off the screen and I know I still want it, this is what happens if you do not let go of the control key. When I scroll down, look at that shit. Just minimize, super fucking small. And you kind of like, I can't zoom in and out with the cursor over here. But when I put it over the frequency table, holding down the control key, I can still go in and out. The plus or minus keys do the same thing. So I could let go of the control key, come down here and click on wait. I had to re-click, hold down control when I clicked wait though. That way I got all three to show up over here on the right. Frequency and relative frequency are already pre-selected for you when you do a table of the frequencies. Yeah.
You don't know that. That's because we have Should we just review it later?
You should buy the book soon.
Yeah.
If you're waiting on financial aid or something, you should do the 2-week free trial soon. Cause they'll give you 14 days free. That way you're not falling behind on the homework. But if for some reason you don't do any of those, yeah, you can look at it later. Yes,
So for math, instead of control, it's command, just so you know.
that's handy. Thank you. I will write that down in my notes. So. Where am I looking? Control key is command key. On Max. Is it still shift?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You're gonna click compute. And it says, whoa, lots of unique number values for age. Do you want to turn on bidding for this procedure? Today, I am not gonna turn it on. On Thursday, we're gonna turn it on. There's a lot more to explain on bidding. It works better with histograms as well. And so I'm gonna say, no, I'm just gonna say cancel. And it will give me this table here. So there was one 14-year-old that responded to this. This over here is not a percent. This is the decimal version for relative frequency. If you want it as a percentage, remember, you just gotta move it to the right twice. There's a lot of people from 17 to 21-year-old that responded to this. But I had people as old as 79 respond to this. I had this not just in my classes, but I put it up on Facebook just to like get some more info in there. So many of these just have a frequency of 1. Look at how many of these have a frequency of 1. And so they all have the same relative frequency. So binning actually makes this a little bit easier. We're going to show binning on Thursday. But scrolling down further, I had said age, shoe, and weight. And so it's giving me the next one below it. Notice it tells you the count at the top. This is our N that they use for each one. And so shoe size, we went through shoe sizes. And then we did weight. I didn't ask people to enter their actual weight. I just said, are you thin? Are you average? Are you heavy? We just left it in 3 categories because that's how people would identify a suspect. They wouldn't go, they look like they're $130. Some people might, but most people are gonna go, they're average build, or they're slender, or they're overweight. So each of these showed different relative frequencies, but it has our frequency and it has our relative frequency. This is how you'll do it for when you're doing stuff with 2.1 or when you need frequencies and stuff like that. Before class next time, I would like you to explore a couple other things, like play around in StatCrunch a little bit. So what I mean by that is, let me close that. We do a lot of stuff with stats, summary stats, and columns. That's going to be chapter 3. So you can check that out, play around with it, like look at the stuff. But most of what we're doing on Thursday is these graphs. So like do a bar plot and check it out. When you're doing a bar plot or any of these graphs, if you have all the entries listed, you're going to choose with data. I will do this for the age one right quick. And it will also ask me if I want binning, and I'm going to say no. I canceled it. Look at that. That's a clusterfuck. That's a lot of bars. So take a look at the graph for bar plots. Check out histograms, do the histogram for age as well. And click compute and look at it and go, how do they compare? So like play around with this, because I'm gonna ask you some questions on Thursday about what you think is the difference between these. If you want to go and look at something without re-clicking on all your selections, this is really handy. If you click on options, you can just say edit. And all of your selections stay there, and you can always add more. Or not add more. So I'm gonna do this on both the bar plot and the histogram. Notice that they have different choices. Like gender doesn't show up here over in the histogram column. So explore around, see if there's any differences. When you actually look at the results, see the differences. We'll look at what binning does. But you can toy around with binning right now. Just by going in and changing bins. Like, what does it mean if I put 10 and start at 10 and do like width of 8? What the hell does that mean? It changed my histogram. Didn't have as many columns. So like explore around a little bit. If you close stuff and you don't want to reselect everything, you're like, fuck, I didn't even mean to close that. I still need it back. See how it's got a little 3, a white 3 and a blue box? Up here, when on the StatCrunch, it says 3 results are hidden. You can go through and click on anything you close down and it'll bring it back up. So like doing this wasn't too bad. There was only one, like we only chose age on some of these. But like if you've done a bunch of work on your project and you've saved it, it'll save the results. And so you don't have to keep redoing shit. We'll talk about that when we get to projects. Most of the stuff in this class before the midterm is on summary stats. There's a couple calculator things, and that's it. We don't do a whole lot with frequencies and relative frequencies after the beginning. We can choose to do so later, but most of them are here, summary stats and columns, and calculators is not very many. We're gonna look at binomial, we're gonna look at Poisson, and we're gonna look at normal. There's not a lot of different things you gotta learn the menus for the first half of the semester. Okay? Something that you might find helpful in your course module, click on files on the left. And click on useful handouts. It's a folder. If you scroll down the list, it's alphabetical order. You'll find it at the bottom. Or it shows up right here on the left. Click on useful handouts. And you're in a stats course, so click on stats. StatCrunch Tech Help. Oh, let's see what the fuck it load. I know it's 12 pages. Let's see how long it takes it. It knows how to use StatCrunch, and it's done by section order. 1.3 is right here. We didn't do anything. This is like having the computer generate its own random sample, which seems silly. You're not going to really need that for anything. But like 2.1, we just got done talking about this right here. Frequencies are relative frequencies. And I told you select stats, tables, and then frequency. This is in sequential order, by the way, we're going to go in the book. So like 2.2 is next. We'll take a look at the bar graph and the pie chart when we do the graphs on Thursday. But this is all in sequential order. So like even though I'm going to tell you how to do everything and I'm going to write it down, if you print this out or save it and have it on your computer when you're doing homework, you can always find what the commands are real quickly. Again, that is in files over here on the left. You click on useful handouts right here. You click on stats and you get these two. We'll look at the stats formulas and tables later. You don't need a whole lot from it. But other than that, that was what I had to talk about today. You are free to GTFO. You don't have to, but you're free to go. We're done with the lecture for today. Have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah,
Just to confirm, support, we don't need to be doing any of the homework yet, right?